Welcome to Here's How We Get There. It's the daily show filled with conversations about business and mental health in a down-to-earth style with real-world language. Now let's dive in with your co-hosts, Kenneth Shark Kinney and Trey Tucker.
All right, Trey, this story is hot off the press, hours old, but the House earlier on Wednesday passed a bill that could lead to a nationwide ban of TikTok. If its China-based ownership doesn't sell its stake with ByteDance owning TikTok. It was passed 352 to 65, and it had a pretty broad support in both parties, 197 Republicans and 155 Democrats. Biden says if Congress passes this, he'll sign the law. But this faces a little bit of an uphill climb with what will happen in the Senate, and there is some pressure because of the national security issues. But I think, if we can keep this from being political, the thing that really sort of raised my eyebrows about this story as I was watching some of it on the news, people have been protesting about TikTok, and some of them are even relying on TikTok, which is a fantastic channel just to entertain yourself for hours on end. However, a lot of people are relying on it for news and for even some stories where people were saying for their own mental health. So you as a creator with 1 million plus followers, what's your sort of reaction to what's going on with TikTok?
I'm not worried. I think even if the law passes, they will sell simply because they won't want to give up the amount of revenue that would come from losing the US. I think something will happen along the way where it stays available for your US users. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think it has been interesting, though, with as many push notifications as they've been sending through the app to try to call a congressman and take all kinds of action. It has had little to no impact on this law, which I think is really fascinating. And the other thing, like you mentioned, it has bipartisan support. When was the last time you remember anything getting bipartisan support? So I think what they realize is that if both parties go for this, they can't get any kind of political pushback from their constituency because they can say, well, look, the other guy did it, so why are you going to be mad at me? So somehow TikTok has united the political parties. But overall, with people using that for their mental health, I get where they're coming from on one hand, because there is some pretty good information for your mental health. But if you're actually relying on it for your stability and your mood, then you're actually defeating the whole point of the information on social media, because the point is to get out of a screen and into the real world.
Well, the crazy thing with how this eventually ties back to China and the Communist Party is, the wizard behind the curtain, if you will, running the algorithm, despite what a lot of people or what TikTok tried to say, tends to be the boogeyman here. And that's why they want to get rid of it, because it's part of the Chinese Communist Party. Google and Facebook collecting a ton of data have been doing this forever. Still the boogeyman. Nobody really screams about Google's data collection, but it's still, TikTok's not the only one doing this. Instagram will turn up the heat as soon as this stuff's over. This is really good for Facebook, in particular for Meta, and growing those channels. I think the thing that concerns me is several things. One, people give away too much data about themselves, and I don't understand why people aren't screaming about data and algorithms in general, as opposed to who's running them. Does Google likely have much better intentions and follow more guidelines? Yes, but they're still collecting too much data. I mean, that's why we had the Great Hack movie on Netflix and shows like that. The other is people have to get to the realization that the algorithms are just turning up the dial on you. It's just simple math. And it's the same reason we talked about the other day that Netflix shows that don't make any sense are number 1 or 2. They know how to prop it up a little bit and then dial it into you. And that's how a show 10 years, 15 years old becomes number 1 movie or number 2 movie or TV show. And the more data you give away without a lot of transparency, people should be concerned about this. It's way too important. And I think the other thing, it really has an impact on the news. The fact that too many people get the news from social media. They're an algorithm, again, that reminds you they know how to tap into what moves you.
Thank you for joining Shark and Trey on the Here's How We Get There show. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit here'showwegetthere.com. That's here'showwegetthere.com.